Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Kulona, and this is Nashville. Nashville's industrial complexes of music and healthcare find place in the life and work of Odessa Settles. But where others may see music and careers in health as things to be utilized for professional gain, they're simply who Odessa is. Odessa comes from a legacy of music makers and activists and has spent her life following suit in Nashville and across the country. I'm honored to welcome Odessa Settles to This Is Nashville.
Thank you, Khalil. It's nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you here with us.
Thank you so much.
Now, the song we just heard is from a show that you spent many years with in recent history. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the live show, No Small Endeavor, because I think it's really a profound example of your life story. And it's a great, really starting place for what we're going to talk about today.
Yes. Well, it was started in 2008 by Professor Lee C. Camp, who is a professor of divinity at Lipscomb University. And it started out as the Token Show and recently changed to No Small Endeavor. I was invited in by Buddy Green and Jeff Taylor to be part of the show. And when they told me about it, I said, oh, there is a nice social element to it, which is what kind of drives me in whatever it is that I do, anything that I participate in. There has to be something that will deal with social issues. And this particular one, although it was surrounding, divinity and love, joy, trying to figure out how to have a good life, that it really drew me in because of the social element of it.
So as you see your hometown, your home city, the state, and the country, as we step forward into 2025, the social atmosphere of the entire place, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing ahead for us?
That's a good question. There's so much division going on right now in the world, including in our space where we live here. I was born and raised here in Nashville, Tennessee, so I've seen a lot of changes take place. I grew up during segregation. So from that time to now, if you really pay attention to all the changes that goes on and around you, there have been a lot of positive changes. I have to say that. And we have to give credit to that, Otherwise, I think we would probably go crazy with all of it. When we look at the big picture, the whole world and what's going on, So I've seen a lot of changes. I am a relentless optimist, I think is a good way to describe it. So I always think there is hope, I think in those terms. So that's how I see Nashville, as a hopeful place.
Relentless optimist.
Yes, I am.
So, okay, you see hope in everything. What are the ingredients? What makes something shine of hope to you?
Well, love of humanity, right? And I won't say exactly faith in humanity, but maybe so, in a sense. I think there is good in all of us, whether or not we exhibit it or not. But I live by the adage that we all do what we know to do until we learn to do something different, right?
Yes.
And that helps me, and including myself, right? And that helps me to see everybody that I meet and all people on an even keel. Right? We all have this potential of being good and exhibiting that, and we also have the potential of going the other way. So I still have hope for anyone who also decide to take the lesser road.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you grew up not too far away from this studio, right?
This is true. I started out and we were near Jefferson Street and 12th Avenue North. We lived on the east side of 12th Avenue North, almost where it perpendiculates Jefferson Street. Mm-hmm. That was the area that was carved out for the interstate. So everybody on that side of the street lost their homes, to that development. And then we moved to the south side of Nashville, near where there's a school called Rose Park and Carter Lawrence. So we lived near that area. And interestingly, I still live in the 12th South area.
Okay. Tell me about the house you grew up in.
Well, we have a relatively large family. I had 7 brothers. And that was my mom and my dad, no sisters.
7 brothers and just you.
And me.
Wow.
Yeah. But there were also many family members that would be in our home all the time, whether it's come to spend the night, come for a meal, come to stay for a while. So there were always more than just the 10 of us in the house. Mm. And that was since I was as far back as I can remember, even when we lived in the north side of town. My father was a professional singer and also a builder. So he had dual careers as we were growing up. And so my brothers and I saw that. He used to bring his groups to our home to rehearse. So we grew up listening to that music and learning the harmonies. His style of singing was quartet singing, like the Fairfield Four. The first group that I am very familiar with was the Golden Harp Jubilee Singers, which today probably is still one of my favorite groups. They didn't, they didn't have a really long life as far as the group was concerned. But that's still probably one of my favorite. And it could be because my father was one of my favorite singers, and he was one of the lead singers. But my brothers and I would be in the back rooms, just learning, singing along as they were singing, us figuring out which part we're going to do. And so we were still with the love of music, throughout our childhood on up. And my grandmother, too, my father's mother, who was a minister, she was an apostolic minister. Interestingly, she was born in 1892. So in that sense, too, I learned about being progressive, as a female, because there my grandmother was a minister. But she also would sing hymns, songs, and I would listen to her.
7 brothers. Are you the youngest?
No, I'm right in the middle.
Okay. So you have big brothers, but you also get a chance to be a big sister as well.
I'm the big sister, the little sister, the oldest sister, the youngest sister, everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
How did having so many brothers shape you?
Well, I'm still sort of a tomboy, in a sense. I played ball, I played football, I I wanted to do everything that my brothers did, so that, in that sense. And I think I developed a strong constitution as well.
Yes.
Being among so many males.
Yes.
And I'm still, even today, more comfortable around males, because that's just how I came up.
Yeah.
And so, thankfully, my brothers married, so I did gain some sister-in-laws. So
yes.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Now, in high school, you and some of your friends, I hear, developed a drama and music group called the Princely Players.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
That was in 1967 over at Cameron High School. It was a high school then. It's a middle school now, I believe. And it's located over off of Murfreesboro Road, the top end of Murfreesboro Road. But our drama and English professor, H. German Wilson, formed a group. There were 12 of us, 12 students, and it also included one college freshman during those days, music and drama was very important in schools. So we had a really strong background in that, and which is great. But the Princely Players were formed, and we actually told the story of the African American experience in this country, coming from slavery all the way through the civil rights, movement. So the group is still in existence. We haven't really been very active since COVID hit. But anyway, we have gotten to do many great things, recording with the Wade in the Water series with the Smithsonian, the Civil War music from Warner Brothers. We've traveled the country from the East Coast to the West Coast, but we mainly performed on the East Coast, North and South.
Now, you did those travels as a high schooler.
Yes, we did.
You're doing this during the civil rights movement. Your high school students who got together to do this. You said everything that you do has a social aspect to it. You wanted to let people know about the Black experience.
Yes.
How did that experience as a high schooler, and subsequently after as a young adult, continuing to be a part of the Princely Players, how did that kind of shape and awaken your activism?
Yeah. Just the very fact that we got to travel around the country, number one, to see what was going on around the country. And the reception of the group, because we talked about history, African-American history, which was not necessarily
Popular.
easy.
Yeah.
Easy to hear. We ended up at times having to have police escorts, because of the reaction of some of the people that attended some of the shows that we did. But we talked about what was going on. It's hard to hear. It even is today, right? But yeah, so that shaped us, and it kept us going. We were pretty passive as young kids, but then as we became older, then we became more and more active and participating, doing what we can do to try to change the world.
You're engaged into these acts of protest, be it through arts.
Through arts. It's a great way to do it.
There's something in line like excellence of work as protest. Stepping into a place where through your art, you are going to protest, but rather than make a sign, rather than yell a very catchy slogan, you're going to be excellent at everything that you do in every step of work. Is that a philosophy that you took at that time and continued?
It sort of is. You have to keep the young folks in mind. We are here not just for ourselves, but for the children and the young people that are coming after us. One of my favorite songs is, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. When you have this great love for yourself, then you're able to spread that around. And you're able to see people on whatever level or where they're coming from. So that's one of my favorite songs. And that was mainly one of the goals of our groups too, to instill this self-love, and to be able to have this strong constitution in spite of all of the adversities that were surrounding you.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Odessa Settles and talk about her 5-decade-long nursing journey with Vanderbilt University. We'll be right back. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Colonna, and this is Nashville. My guest today is Odessa Settles. She's an activist, musician, Nashvilleian, and nurse. 1 year ago, after 54 years of service, she retired from Vanderbilt, where she worked at the Monroe Correll Jr. Children's Hospital. She's a legendary musician and a local icon who bleeds Nashville through and through. Odessa Settles, again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Khalil. It's great to be here.
So last year, around this time last year,
I know, December.
you retired 54 years working at Vandy.
Yes.
I got to ask you, how is retirement treating you, or more appropriate, how are you treating retirement?
I'm loving it.
Okay.
Above everything else, I am loving it. I have had to get used to it. Once you spend so many hours doing a particular thing, and in my case, nursing, you have to do something to fill that space, So for this first year, what I wanted to do outside of my music, because I went from 2 careers down to 1 career,
Okay.
which is fantastic. So that 1 career that I don't have any longer, I wanted to just rest and be lazy and do whatever I want to do. Try to get used to not having to get up at 6 in the morning or, and coming home at 6 at night or later, So that's been great. Music has been just tremendously busy still. So, and I expected that and I wanted that. And it's what, one of my main goals. But yeah, it's so different. But I ride around and I find myself smiling.
That's good.
Because I'm not beholden to anybody except myself.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
And not beholden to anyone's clock or
That's
time.
That's it.
Except yours.
That's just mine.
So it's been a year. We have certain thoughts. I have thoughts about retirement at 51 years old. It's going to be some time, unless I hit the Powerball. It's going to be some time before I retire. And I have ideas and thoughts on it, but I don't know it until I'm in it.
This is true.
How have your thoughts on retirement changed?
You don't know, like you said, you don't know until you know, until you really get into it. I think before one retires, long before one retires, while you are working, while you are young and active, that you should develop an interest outside of your work. That I think that is a necessity, to continue to be able to live life and really enjoy it without getting bored, without getting lazy, sitting, or whatever. I think you should develop something. And that's something that I always talk to many of the nurses that I worked with over the years, that I suggest that do something different outside of your work, And I know that that's a problem. I would go and we might have ladies' night out or something, and I'll be with the nurses, and all they can talk about is work. I would stop them. I said, okay, one more thing about work, and that's it. Let's talk about something else. It was very difficult for them to talk about something else. I said, that tells me, that should tell you, you need to develop something outside of work. So that's how I feel about retirement, that you have to have something to lean on once you leave.
That's sage advice for us working stiffs in the world. It is. Now, your time during your nursing career and your time at Vanderbilt, you established the first of its kind emergency transport for babies, I understand.
I was part of it. That was under Dr. Mildred Stallman, who was a pioneer in neonatal medicine and was one of my mentors. And we just lost her in June of this year, and she was nearly 102. She would have been 102 years of age in July, as a matter of fact. But anyway, under her program, it was the newborn emergency transport. We called it Angel, one after one of the doctors who was, very instrumental in developing it while she was doing her fellowship there at Vanderbilt. Her name was Dr. Angela Skelton, who also passed away in July of this year. But anyway, I was one of the first transport nurses, Yeah, I was working in the neonatal intensive care unit at that particular time. And before we even had a team for the transport, they would pull some nurses were available to go. And so I love emergency medicine. You have to think quick on your feet. So that's what this was, newborn emergency transport, where we would go to the small rural hospitals within a 100-mile radius of Vanderbilt, stabilize infants that were just born. Many of them were premature, all of them born at risk. And so we have to stabilize them and then bring them back to Vanderbilt for more care, for intensive care.
Did you ever meet anybody you treated?
The babies?
Yeah. And
Of
you meet everybody
course.
as an adult?
Interestingly, like maybe around, now the transport started in the 1970s, 1970 to 74, actually. And then maybe about 10 years later, when they started sending babies, discharging babies from the neonatal intensive care unit who are still requiring oxygen, I helped to start a clinic to follow those babies. So they would come to my clinic starting at about 3 to 4 months of age. And then I would see them until they no longer need supplemental oxygen. And so interestingly, I have been there long enough to see some of the parents coming back to my clinic with their babies who were born premature.
Okay, so what does it mean to you? You see a former patient who's now a full-grown adult and has a child themselves come to see you.
It's exciting. I mean, it's like family, I mean, my clinic was kind of different, and it's one of the oldest running clinics in the country that was, specific to this particular population. These were babies with what we call chronic lung disease. It's a bronchopulmonary dysplasia. It's the long medical term for it. But it's a chronic lung disease in babies who are born premature. So they would come to me like every 3 to 4 weeks. So we really got to know each other, on that basis. And so to see them growing up, I mean, it's like seeing your children.
Yeah.
Seeing your children grow up, it's yeah.
As a former educator, I understand.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
You
about.
see them get old and like, you have kids and I don't have any. That's wild. Now, you worked with local and rural communities as this established, and you were talking about the need that rural communities had. In many ways, rural communities still have intense medical needs.
Yes.
And still not being served the way they are in urban centers and whatnot. You spent 60 years in this practice. What do you see as far as not just only the inequities, but what can be done to make sure that there's robust health care that's nearly immediately available for all Tennesseans? Doesn't matter if you live in suburbs, the city, or in a rural area.
My mentor, Dr. Stallman, she would say, the reason that babies or people are not being taken care of from a medical standpoint, it's a social issue. And excuse my French, I don't know if I could say this on
You can say
air.
whatever you want on my show.
But she said the reason that it happens is because we don't give a damn. And until we do, it won't change. That's what she felt. And I feel the same. You have to know what's really going on around you in your communities, what's available, what's not available, and figure out a way to make this available to the people that are in need. It sounds as simple as that, but unfortunately, it hasn't been. And because of the culture of the United States, anyway, when it comes to minorities, until we get on top of that, then it's going to always be a problem.
Did this shared philosophy that both you and your mentor hold, did that turn into activism? And if so, how did your work meet your activism?
Just because my patient load was kind of multicultural, and from different countries, Mm-hmm. But when you live the life that you hope to see, that kind of transfers to people that you are connected with. And if you have time to do that, like which I did, like within my clinics, it's transformative. Many of my patients and families have said that, just by coming to that clinic and being accepted for who they were, taking care of the things that they were having problems getting access to, because I would go out of my way to try to make sure everybody got what they needed to be able, especially to be able to take care of a baby that was born at risk. So just applying your life, living the life, walking, and doing what you say that you're going to do, it helps tremendously.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekolona. Today, my guest is Odessa Settles, musician, activist, healer. We're talking about her 5-decade-long nursing career. I understand what you're saying. I believe it's the, quote, be the change you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. And I was recently having a conversation with a sibling who's gone through a wonderful, I'm not going to say transformation, I'm going to say continued evolution. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we say transformation, we're referring to the place we were as a bad place.
Right.
And it's not that. We continue to get better. And she was talking about how this evolution that she's been in, her mere being in proximity of her, people can, they feel a vibration. They feel this emanation of something. Mm-hmm. And what you were saying about what you brought to your work, it made me feel like this. Mm-hmm. And, I'm just looking at society. I get on social media and I see the pressures young people have to try to be something, mm-hmm. not necessarily being themselves. I'm sure as you had a mentee you for 50 years, you have people that you're looking at. What advice do you give to young folks when it comes, particularly in the nursing spaces, outside of, hey, keep work at work, your home life is your home life. But as far as, living and breathing the act of being a healer and a nurse, how do you advise them?
I always bring up that, that adage, like I said, that I live by, just know that we all do what we know to do until we learn to do something different. Take that in the room with you when you go to see your patients. And I relate some stories, The thing that I have dealt with, of course, was racial discrimination and, being called names throughout my career. And what do you do when that happens? You can either get angry and walk out, or you can use that as a teaching moment. Like I had one patient, a woman who, when I walked in the room and she was told that I was going to be her nurse, that she didn't want me to take care of her. And we didn't have anybody else that night. It was an evening shift. And so I just spoke up and I told the woman that I would be glad to take care of you tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody else for this evening. I said, but maybe tomorrow there would be somebody else that you would prefer. Mm-hmm. And so I took care of her, and she never said a word to me. She was this look. Mm-hmm. You probably know that look.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And all night. And then at the end of my shift, I put a chair up to her bed, which is what I would do with all of my patients. This was before I was taking care of babies, children. And I just said, I'm about to leave. Thank you for allowing me to take care of you tonight. And I hope you heal completely. She never said a word to me. And I walked out. And I came back the next evening, and she was on my schedule as my patient. She asked for me the rest of the time that she was there.
Wow. Did you all talk further about the...
We didn't talk further about that. Mm-hmm. But you could see the warming in her, the change in her. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to say anything. other than good morning, Miss So-and-so, how are you doing? And then at the very end, she was discharged, and she managed to have me on the day shift when she was being discharged. And she tried to give me a monetary gift, and I told her, no, I can't accept that.
Wow.
You know, I'm here to take care of you, and thank you for allowing me to do so. And I hope you continue to heal. And so she gave me a hug, and she had tears just running down her face.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had situations like that, even with a father who, during transport, who didn't want me to touch his baby. And they would call me names, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They would call me the N-word, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I went to transport a baby, to pick up a baby in one of the hospitals, and the father, the family, the doctors, the nurses were all there, and I was head of the team. And I brought a nurse who was a white woman, and our assistant who was a black male. And so they went to the white nurse immediately to ask her what we needed to do. It was a baby that was in critical condition. And so they said, no, I'm sorry, you have to talk with Miss Settles. She's the one in charge. The whole place just went silent. And the father said, I don't want to touch my baby, you know. So the same thing, I pulled him away from the crowd, and I took him into a room away from his crowd, and I talked to him. I introduced myself and let him know I know what I'm doing, number one. And then I said, and I know that we both grew up in the South. I said, I get it. I get it. I said, but today let's make it not be about you and me. Let's make it about whether or not you want to give your son a chance. That's it. And he was tearing. That was hard for him.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we have to understand, and that's the thing that I want nurses who are coming along to understand. We do what we know to do until we learn to do something different. Our cultural lenses teaches us who we're going to be and how we're going to be, you know, from the time that we're born to now. And so I ended up taking care of the baby, got him back to Vanderbilt. And then maybe about 3 months later, this man walked into my clinic holding a baby on oxygen. He sees me, he walks up to me and said, do you remember who I am? I said, yes, I do, smiling. And so with a big hug, with his baby in the middle, he hugs me with tears and just said, thank you. Those are the kind of things, you know, like I used to do a little lecture over at Lipscomb to the nurses, the new nurses coming in. And those are the kind of stories that they need to hear, you know, because we have to meet the people that we serve where they are. Don't take it personally. They have never met you before. So it's not about you. It's about where they came from.
These are stories we all
These are stories
need
that
to
we
hear.
all need to hear.
We're going to take one last break. When we return, we're going to talk about music with Miss Odessa Settles and learn how she created lifelong bonds through music and sound. Stay with us. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Colonna, and this is Nashville. My guest is Odessa Settles, musician, nurse, and activist. We've been talking about what her life was like growing up here in Nashville and her long and impactful nursing career at Vanderbilt. Now we're going to talk about the music.
Okay.
Miss Odessa, thank you. So, you know, at the same time you were building this story and exceptional career as a nurse, you were also committed to doing music. Like you said before, you retired from nursing. Music is still full time.
I think when it comes to my music career, because it's not even really a career that I actually was trying to develop or look at
Really?
or to develop. No. I was born into music, so I always say people, it's like being Baptist. It's just something that we did. It was part of our life from the time that we were born and still is now. So I was not looking for any kind of a record deal or, anything like that, but it turned out to be probably one of the most lucrative, and not necessarily from a monetary standpoint, but an intrinsic value point for me, as far as music, to be able to do that, to meet all the different people that we have met and performed with and recorded with, and to be able to do what I love to do without any problems. One of my brothers said there are more opportunities than people. So connecting yourself to that, it has enriched our lives. I think I've just finished up maybe about 6 or 7 recordings in the last 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, on different projects.
You mentioned that your father was a part of the Fairfield Four. And you mentioned that your father was one of your favorite singers.
Yes. My father passed away in 1999, but I still listen to him, on recordings. But yeah, he is one of my absolute favorite singers.
What do you think about contemporary music these days?
I haven't really gotten into contemporary music because I'm from old school, and I still am, and I really like old school music. So a lot of the contemporary artists, I don't know. I appreciate them. When I hear something, like Amos Lee, and I think Beyonce has some chops, crazy chops. But a lot of the younger folks coming along, I haven't really connected with them yet.
I'm interested because, we've seen a lot of genres pop up. 50 years ago, hip hop was born.
Yeah.
And hip hop has gone through a change, transformation, and evolution in its own right.
Yeah.
And I just remember when hip hop was coming to the forefront of American culture, and I was obsessively listening to it. My parents had particular feelings about it because they were old school as well.
Yeah.
I was just interested in that because, there's a new generation of Settles who have combined into a group called the Settles Connection. Tell me about that and who's involved with it.
Yeah, that's my recording group, as a matter of fact. There were so many people in the city that were asking for African Americans, to fill a particular niche, whether it's in a movie or something like that. And so we started recording. I said, call me, just give me a call and I'll bring you what you need. Somebody called me once and said, I need 50 men in black tuxedos to back up Charlotte Church. And I said, okay, when do you need them? And so, that was within less than a week that they needed them. And I got them 50 men in black tuxedos. Fortunately, at that particular time, I was president of the Nashville Symphony Chorus.
Okay.
So I grabbed those guys. That's where the connection comes in. Settles is the name. Connection is whoever we bring in to connect with the family. And so they needed somebody for the Lion King, where a group that was supposed to do it dropped out, and they needed that within the week. And so I got that together. So I started doing things like that many years ago. The recording has been going on for quite a while. So we record with a lot of different artists who come to Nashville or who are Nashville artists. Yeah.
Now, we've got a clip to play from the Settles Connection. This is Hold On to God's Unchanging Hand. Can you tell us a little bit about it before I play it?
Oh, that's just one of the old gospel songs, that my brother Calvin Settles, who is the music director of our group, that he introduced that to us. And he's an incredible arranger, by the way. He's also an organist. He's a Hammond B3 organist. He taught a lot of young folks in the city organ, church music. But anyway, that's one, and we were at the pilgrimage festival when we performed this particular piece on the porch.
Wonderful. We're going to take a listen to it now.
1, 2, 3.
That is beautiful. Mm-hmm. That is beautiful. That was the Settles Connection singing Hold On to God's Unchanging Hand. Mm-hmm. Now, does the Dyer family perform gospel music only?
No, not just gospel music. My brother Calvin also is a great writer. One of the main themes in a lot of our music is love. So he's written several songs that we perform as well, so outside of just the gospel. The style is still kind of, their influence, but it's not necessarily all gospel. It could be a little contemporary, and also a little jazz. Some of the arrangements that he does he got us into like this jazz. It's pretty nice, yeah. I really enjoy singing with that group, Settles Connection.
I can envision you all on the porch sharing that song,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, we'd definitely love to have you sing a song. We'll talk about that in a second, but I do want to ask you this final question before we get to that. This is your city.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant so much to you over the course of your life. Mm-hmm. You've given back through your service and your music. And you kind of answered this a little bit at the top of the show, but I'd like you to go a little bit deeper. What do you want for the future of your town, Nashville?
I think Nashville itself, what I would really hope for is that the state, that would kind of flow into some of the smaller areas in our state. But because Nashville is made up of so many people from so many different places, in my opinion, that has been a great thing, culture-wise. We're kind of a cohesive city, I believe, from a city standpoint. But we have a lot of work to do from the top levels.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, Odessa, this has been an honor, and we'd love for you to make some music for us here in the studio. Can you tell us about this song you're about to share with us and its significance?
This is called Brown Baby. And Brown Baby is a lullaby that was written by Oscar Brown Jr. He wrote it for his son, who unfortunately passed away before he did. So it was him hoping that he would have a good life, and just giving him pointers about how to do that. But at the same time, you get that feeling of, that adversity is still there. And he wrote it in a minor key. It may sound a little melancholy at times, but it is definitely a good message, talking about when you grow up,
This is Odessa Settles singing Oscar Brown Jr.'s Brown Baby.
Brown baby, as you grow up, I want you to drink from the plenty cup. I want you to stand up tall and proud. Want you to speak up clear and loud. Brown baby, as years go by, want you to walk with your head held high. I want you to live by the justice code. Want you to walk down freedom road, brown baby. Now lie away sleeping. Lie away here in my arms while your daddy and mommy are with you to keep you safe from harm. Oh, brown baby, it makes me glad you're gonna have more than I ever had. When out of men's heart all hate is hurled, you're gonna live in a battle. My brown baby, my brown baby, my brown baby, my brown baby.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
What's your connection to this song?
So I had 2 children too, and it's what you wish for them.
Mm.
Yeah. So I lost my daughter in 2020, but my son is still here along with his wife. And you want the best for your kids. You want the best for your children. Yeah.
Miss Odessa Settles, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for talking with me. I'm deeply honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalil. It's been an honor for me, too. I love your show.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Leslie Eiler Thompson. It was directed by Catherine Cece's. Our technical director and board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation does not end here. You can tweet us and tell us what you want from the show by hitting us up at This Is Nashville, or you can find us on Blue Sky and Instagram. And you can call us 615-751-2500. This is Nashville. I'm Kaliole Colonna. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. And be good to each other.